Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner talking home run. Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner like ooh.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, April 28th, 2025, and this is the Monday Report. I'm your host, H. James K., and today, this second episode of the 28th of April, we are going to be doing a post-spring college football top 25 rankings and some bold predictions. All right. Jumping right into it right off the bat. Starting at 25th in the country, I have the SMU Mustangs. SMU has bought their way into the Power 4 last year. They went to the playoffs last year, and I love their NIL commitments and their recruiting. I think it's what's going to ultimately keep them in the hunt for the ACC title, and I really like this pick down low at 25. Next, coming in at 24, we have Iowa State. Iowa State is one of those teams that's just kind of consistently there. They're kind of always consistently in the hunt in the Big 12. And considering the Big 12 is otherwise diminished, I like them to be another one of these kind of teams that's sneaky contenders, much like Minnesota was in the Big 10 West back in the day. So Iowa State, they recruit reasonably well. They play good defense. I really like them for 24. All right, our first group of 5 team. At 23, we've got Boise State. The Broncos, they put a lot of people in the NFL this year. Ahmed Husseinian, Ashton Jeanty. Yeah, they had a good team last year, and it shows because they went to the playoffs. Ultimately, their coaching staff is really good. They recruit well for a G5, and I really like what they're doing. I have full faith that they're going to continue to kind of dominate the Mountain West Conference and stay in the hunt for that lone group of 5 playoff spot. So, 23rd in the country. Next, at 22nd in the country, we've got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I love the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Dylan Raiola is a really underrated guy coming into his second year, and their coaching staff is great. Matt Rule is a really good coach, and as we've seen in his prior history, his teams kind of crater, and then they slowly get better until they're very elite. And I think this is the year when Nebraska is finally going to turn that corner. They've got a great quarterback. Their defense was so good last year. They had some issues on the offensive line, but they've taken steps in the recruiting space to kind of rectify that. And I think their wide receivers are going to be a little bit better. They've lost some guys at running back, but I have full faith in Matt Rule that he's going to replace those guys, which is why I really like this pick at 22. All right, at 21, Illinois. Brett Bielema is a good coach. I know, shocking news. That team plays stout defense. They're really physical in the trenches on both offense and defense. They run the ball well, and anytime they have a decently consistent quarterback, they make some noise in the Big Ten. They made some noise in 2024. Hell, they made some noise in 2023. And I like them to be another one of these kind of quiet, sneaky, fringe playoff teams that no one really talks about until right down at the end of the season. I love their defense. I love the way they play ball. It's very old school Big Ten, very old school Wisconsin, Michigan football kind of thing. So 21st in the country. They're going to bring back enough starters on defense. They're going to have a reasonably good quarterback. And they got Brett Bielema. What else do you need? All right, moving on. And now I know people are going to say this is a homer pick, but I genuinely believe this. Coming in at number 20, we have the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan was abysmal in 2024, and yet their amazing defense helped them get 8 wins on the season, which is crazy because they had the worst offense in the history of Michigan football in 2024. But thankfully, they have something else now. Bryce Underwood. And a new offensive coordinator. Now, Chip Lindsey is going to have this offense operating mostly out of the shotgun, but the Michigan Wolverines are still going to run the ball a lot. They're still going to chew clock, play defense. It's still going to be Michigan football. But the addition of Chip Lindsey and Bryce Underwood is going to have the offense going in a much better direction. Michigan's offense, they're not going to be amazing because Bryce Underwood is a true freshman. Honestly, I bet he barely completes over 50% of his passes, and he's probably going to have just as many picks as he does touchdowns. But his raw talent alone is going to make the Michigan offense better because we'll have a quarterback who could push the ball down the field, and he can run and he's a little tougher than the quarterbacks Michigan had in 2024. So I'm not expecting huge things out of Michigan, but 20th in the country to start the year, that sounds about right. All right, coming in at number 19, we have the Colorado Buffaloes. Colorado just put multiple people in the NFL, including Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, Jimmy Horn Jr., Shiloh Sanders. I like what Colorado is doing. They're going to be way more physical on both offensive and defensive line. Their defense might not be as good because there's no Travis Hunter now, but they're recruiting well, and they've kind of built a solid core of players at Colorado that I really, really like. So look for them to be good, especially with the new guy they've got coming in to play quarterback from the portal and the new recruits they've got. I don't think this team is going to miss a step from last year. I think they're going to just keep right on chugging towards another contention for another Big 12 championship. Hopefully they actually win it this time. All right, coming in at number 18th in the country, we've got the USC Trojans. Lincoln Riley. Talk about a man who is disappointing. They've gotten worse every year that he's been the head coach of the USC Trojans, and this year is make or break. If the USC Trojans don't turn it around in a serious way, I think he's gone. They're trying to become more physical to play in the Big Ten, but it's a whole other kind of ball. And his identity is to just try to score on every play. So he doesn't play the style of ball that helps you win in the Big Ten, which is you got to kind of grind down your opponents. Even if you throw the ball out, you still have to grind it out a little bit and be more physical. And his teams just really aren't. And they've got a lot of uncertainty at quarterback and at running back and at skill positions. And the only reason they make it this high is because Lincoln Riley's offenses are still reasonably productive and they recruit astonishingly well. So this team, I don't have super huge expectations, but coming into the year, they're going to get ranked 18th in the country, and that's kind of where I think they're going to live, at least during the summer. Coming in at 17th, we got the LSU Tigers. The LSU Tigers were slightly better on defense last year. Not slightly, that's a lie. They were much better on defense in 2024 compared to 2023, and while I think they're going to lose a step on offense, Brian Kelly's a good coach. Not a great coach, but he's a good coach. Their defense is going to be better, and I think it's going to help them make a little bit more noise in the SEC versus last year. Whether their quarterback position ultimately works out remains to be seen. They were counting on Bryce Underwood being there, but $12 million is $12 million, and now he plays for Michigan. Oops, sorry. But LSU, I think, is going to be pretty solid for an SEC team that's kind of in the middle there. Moving on to 16th in the country, we've got the Florida Gators. I like the Florida Gators. I love what they're doing at quarterback. They're finally kind of building in the trenches. Their defense was pretty dang good last year. They had Graham Mertz last year, but more importantly, they had DJ Lagway. And I like DJ Lagway going into this year. I think he's going to take a pretty huge leap. Now, he's still young and inexperienced, so I don't expect him to be like Marcus Mariota at Oregon or CJ Stroud, but look for Lagway to have the offense in a little more consistent footing going into this year, which should ultimately propel them a little closer to the top of the mountain in the SEC. Now, they're not going to win. I don't think they're going to win the SEC championship because, well, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Texas, so many other teams. But I think they're definitely going to make a step forward. Now, we've got yet another SEC team at 15th, which is the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee Volunteers, man, before the Nico Iamaleava, I would have had them in the top 10. But now that Nico Iamaleava is going to be playing for the UCLA Bruins, their quarterback position is a little uncertain. Now they've got, I think his name is Joey Aguilar from UCLA coming in, but it remains to be seen what that's going to look like on offense. And without a QB, it's really hard to predict what Tennessee's offense is really going to be. And that's ultimately what has dropped them because their defense is okay. And they recruit really well, but the sudden disruption of Nico Iamaleava just kind of quitting on the team and jumping in the portal ultimately knocks them down quite a ways. Next, at 14th in the country, we've got the Clemson Tigers. Clemson is once again going to be a heavy hitter in the ACC. Cade Klubnik is coming back. He's really rounding into form, and I think their offense is going to continue to take steps forward. More on that later. Dabo Swinney has kind of embraced the portal a little bit, and their defense has kind of gotten better. So I have full faith that Clemson's going to stay in the hunt for a playoff spot, and 14th in the country is kind of where I think they're going to live. Next, we've got the South Carolina Gamecocks at 13th in the country. South Carolina still has Lenora Sellers. They've still got Shane Beamer. They're still going to play pretty good defense. They're going to run the ball pretty well. They recruit really well. I think they're going to be a fringe playoff team again this year. Now, whether they get into the playoffs ultimately is going to depend on their schedule, but I really, really, really like what they've done in the offseason. I like the pieces they've got going into this next year. So 13th in the country sounds absolutely perfect. Here's where things get kind of controversial. So at 12th in the country, I've got the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, the Hoosiers put a whole bunch of people in the NFL. They Curtis Rourke, to be specific. And they're still Indiana. But Curt Cignetti is a good coach. And they still recruited really well. And they did a really good portal class. And he wins. You can Google him. His words. So I don't know if they're going to be as amazing as they were last year getting into the playoffs, but Indiana, I don't think they're going anywhere as long as Curt Cignetti is their head coach. So 12th in the country. All right, coming in at 11th in the country, we've got the Arizona State Sun Devils. I really like Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils. They're deceptively physical with Marcus Arroyo's offense. They run the ball well. They play really good defense. And considering they're in the Big 12, they've got kind of an easy road into the playoffs. So I would not be surprised in the least if they absolutely just jog into the playoffs. Just no big deal, 10 or 11 wins, ain't no thing kind of situation. I love what they're doing in the recruiting game. They're going to have a good quarterback again. Their offense is going to be able to run the ball. Now, they've lost Cam Scatterbo, and that's a loss, to be sure. But Kenny Dillingham is a good coach, and I really like what he's done with the Sun Devils, and they're not going anywhere. All right, and now we've got the top 10. So coming in at number 10, we've got the Mizzou Tigers. Yes, Missouri. They got a good coach. They got a pretty good defense. Their offense is okay, but they're scrappy. They know how to win. And one of these days, I think they're going to reach the top of the mountain in the SEC. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 50 years from now, but I think it's going to happen. And I like the way they play ball. I like their defense. I like the kind of physical style of play they have. And they should have been a Big Ten team. To be honest with you, they really should have been a Big Ten team. So Mizzou at number 10 makes a lot of sense. They're really good. They recruit well. They've got a great roster. Coming in at number 9, we've got the Miami Hurricanes. Mario Cristobal's a good coach. And Carson Beck is a reasonably good quarterback. And I think he's going to turn Carson Beck into a stud. So I like their offense. Now, their defense is Cam Ward had to do a lot of late-game heroics to bail their asses out of a lot of jams. But in the ACC, I don't know how much of a problem that's going to be. So I like the offense, the off-season moves Miami made, and I don't think they're going anywhere. Let's put it that way. Coming in at number 8, we got Ole Miss. The Lane train just keeps on chugging. Jackson Dart has left, no problem. They're still recruiting well. They play good defense. They're an SEC team that does well in the portal. I like the way Lane has constructed their roster, and I really like the direction they're moving in forward. Now, the SEC is going to be kind of wide open this year, I have a feeling. So Ole Miss might be one of those sneaky great teams that kind of surprises people and jumps into the playoffs and makes a lot of noise. Coming in at number 7, we got the Golden Domers themselves, Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish, they're going to have a new quarterback this year, a whole bunch of new pieces on offense and defense, but they still got a good coach. They're still independents, which means they kind of name their own schedule. They're not going anywhere. Marcus Freeman, they're not going anywhere. He's got them humming, and they recruit reasonably well. Well, they recruit as well as as Notre Dame's admission standards allow them to recruit. But they play a deceptively physical style of ball. They win the games they're needing to win, and they're going to be in the playoffs next year again. Next season, it's going to happen. It's written in the stars. They won't go away, because I would be more shocked if they didn't make bowl eligibility than if they, went undefeated. I just don't. It doesn't surprise me that they're good. And number 7, that's kind of where they live. All right, coming in at number 6, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Okay, Kalen DeBoer, you have finally been rid of Jalen Milroe. The bad quarterback can't hurt your offense no more. Their offense is going to be very different this year. They're not going to be as physical running the ball. They're going to throw the ball a lot more. Kalen DeBoer really likes that kind of offense. Now, they do have Kalen DeBoer's offensive coordinator from his time at Washington. He came back from the NFL. He got fired, and he has come back, and I think their offense is going to be way better. Their defense is still going to be good. I mean, on offense, they still have, they have Ryan Williams and all their great players. They did lose some running backs to the portal, but honestly, I think Alabama is going to be way better. There's no way they're going to miss the playoffs this year. I just don't believe it. Because ultimately, I think Jalen Milroe is what ultimately let them down last year, and they're going to have a better quarterback this year. There's no way their quarterbacks are going to be worse than Jalen Milroe, because he was just that bad. All right, coming in at number 5 in the country, the Penn State Nittany Lions. James Franklin is a good coach. He's not a great coach. He's not in that top tier, but he's just below it. He recruits well. They play great defense. They run the ball. Drew Aller has coming back, so they're still going to be reasonably good on offense. Now, Drew Aller has kind of been a disappointment from a development standpoint, but you never know. Maybe this is the year that he turns into the next coming of Andrew Luck and blows people away with his arm talent and his physical properties and everything. Who knows? But Penn State ain't going anywhere. They're still going to be playing good defense. They're still going to be one of the teams that's you got to really look out for on a week-to-week basis. They're still going to bully teams in the trenches. They're one of the best teams in the country again. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Texas Longhorns. Arch Manning time. Yep. The latest Manning is finally going to be starting, and I think their offense is going to be dynamite with Arch Manning. He can run. He's got a crazy arm. He's got a good head on his shoulders with the perfect mindset. He came to Texas and said, "Yeah, I'm going to sit on the bench for a bit and wait for Quinn Ewers to leave because I need to develop and wait my turn." And that's exactly what's going to happen. And I would not be surprised if going into November if he's leading in the Heisman voting, even though he'll be a sophomore. I wouldn't surprise me at all, because Arch Manning, even when you see him in cleanup duty, he was just, oh my God, last year. He was just that good. And he was much like J.J. McCarthy with Michigan. He was too good to keep on the sideline, so they would have gadget packages for him even as a true freshman. So Arch Manning is great. Steve Sarkisian, really good head coach. They really recruit well. They're going to be physical again. Their defense is going to be good. They're going to reload, even though they put a ton of people in the league. Matthew Golden, gone. Ain't going to matter. They're going to replace him at wide receiver. Texas, I would not be surprised if they might be my national championship pick for the coming season. I don't know. We'll be talking about that later on in the summer, but number 4 is where I think they should live right now. All right. Coming in at number 3, we got the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia's going to be better on offense this year because Carson Beck has left. Now, Carson Beck is a good quarterback, but with the style of ball that Kirby Smart wants to play, he's not talented enough to overcome that style of play. You got to be someone more like J.J. McCarthy was at Michigan, where you are benefiting from the style of play, but you're not beholden to the style of play. Like Carson Beck, he couldn't make the flashy plays when they really needed them, and it ultimately really hurt them in 2024. So with Beck gone, their defense is still going to be amazing. They're going to be able to run the ball and really bully teams, but their passing game might be just that much better in 2025, which might just propel them to where they need to go. All right, coming in at second in the country, we got the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning has turned Oregon into a championship factory. They won the Big Ten in their first year, which really disappointed me. I really wanted them not to do that. But they came in, immediately started dominating the Big Ten. They play Big Ten football, which is amazing because this is only their second year in the Big Ten. But they run the ball well. They play defense. They really control the game. Yes, they're going to have to replace Dylan Gabriel and Tez Johnson and a whole bunch of people on defense like Jordan Birch and Derek Harmon, but they recruit really well. They play a really hard-nosed style of ball, and they're definitely going to be in the hunt for a championship again this year. All right, finally, we've got the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ugh, makes me want to throw up. But they're the number one team in the country until proven otherwise. They won a championship. They lost to Michigan, but that didn't seem to matter to them. They've got a great roster. Now, they have had to replace offensive coordinator Chip Kelly with Brian Hartline, which we'll see how that goes. And Jim Knowles has left and has been replaced by Matt Patricia. I don't like Matty P at all. I'm a Lions fan, and he took a perfectly good playoff team and drove them into the ground and alienated everybody. And, well, I loathe that man. Matty P or Fat Matt or however you want to call him as a angry Lions fan, he's their new defensive coordinator. And on the one hand, he'll probably bring an NFL scheme to them and their defense will be great. But on the other hand, maybe he just alienates everybody because he's a dick and nobody likes him in the NFL. Who knows? Ultimately, I don't think he's going to be that great. I mean, the defenses he really coordinated in the NFL were never that good at pass defense or run defense. Ultimately, a lot of his teams were held up. The teams that he was on were either held up by Tom Brady's greatness or sunk by his mediocrity. So I don't know how I feel about that. But at the end of the day, Ryan Day is still a great head coach. They've still got the most talented roster in the league in college football again. No matter how many, I mean, they put 14 guys in. They got 14 guys drafted. Ain't gonna matter. They're still gonna be amazing. So it's one of these things where they're still going to be the number one team in the country. Even though I loathe the Buckeyes and I wish they would just lose every week, it ain't going to happen. They're not going anywhere. They're still the number one team, and they're going to remain the number one team. All right, so that's my top 25. Now let's move on to some bold predictions for each power conference and one for the group of five. Starting with the SEC, Florida will be in the hunt for a playoff spot well into November. Between a more experienced roster and a maturing DJ Lagway, the Gators are going to be poised to make a leap forward. Yes, I am predicting they are definitely going to be in the hunt. Now, whether that means they're fourth or fifth in the SEC and it's like maybe they get in, maybe they don't, who knows? But they're definitely going to be in the hunt. All right, next, LSU's defense will finish in the top 15 in total defense and the top 30 in scoring defense. They had a great defense last year, and I think their defense is going to be even better this year. Whether their offense takes a step forward or a step back remains to be seen, but that LSU defense is going to be disgusting this year, and it's ultimately going to win them a whole bunch of games. All right, next, Texas quarterback Arch Manning will lead the Heisman rankings after September. Hell, he might lead them after October. Who knows? But he's damn good. And I think Texas is just going to roll over a whole bunch of people in September, and he's going to be like the clear number one guy in the Heisman voting. All right, moving on to the Big Ten. Neither team that played for the Big Ten championship will finish in the top four in the conference. That means that both Penn State and Oregon will finish fifth or lower in the Big Ten. Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Indiana, Nebraska, Michigan State, whoever it ends up being is going to finish in those top four are going to finish higher than Penn State and Oregon. I know, it's crazy, but who knows who's going to shoot up to the top of the hill. Next, Michigan's offense will finish the year ranked 90th or higher in passing yards per game, 60th or higher in rushing yards per game, and 70th or higher in points per game. Now, I know what you're saying. Those sound absolutely abysmal. 90th in the country in passing yards, 70th or higher in points per game, but trust me, these increases would amount to a quantum leap forward in Michigan's offense compared to 2024, which saw Michigan finish the year 130th in the country in passing yards per game, with only 129 yards per game. They finished 73rd in rushing yards per game at only 157 yards per game, and they were 113th in scoring at only 22 points per game. So, improving from 130th to 90th in passing yards per game would be huge. Same would be from 73rd in rushing yards per game to 60th. That would be a massive increase. And those improvements would put Michigan right back into Big Ten college football playoff contention. Now, that's assuming their defense is still good, but if their offense makes those kind of leap forwards, which would still be short of the marks they had in 2023 with J.J. McCarthy, they're definitely by far in the playoff hunt with those marks, though. That would be a huge leap forward. Now, last in the Big Ten, my last prediction, Dylan Raiola will have the Nebraska Cornhuskers 7-1 heading into November, which would be Nebraska's best start through 8 games since the 2016 season when they also started 7-1. I think Nebraska is going to be really good this year, and I think they're really going to surprise some teams. And Dylan Raiola is a good quarterback. I just like the Nebraska Cornhuskers. All right, moving on to the Big 12. Colorado will play for the Big 12 championship in Deion Sanders' first season without his sons on the sidelines with him. I'm expecting Colorado's defense to be much better with the additions they've made to the coaching staff. I mean, they've got like D'Amata Pico as the D-line coach, Warren Sapp working with the defensive tackles. They've got a great defensive coordinator, great offensive coordinator. Their defense is going to be so much better this year. And I'm not expecting a huge drop-off in production. I mean, they've still got a great offensive coordinator in Pat Shurmur, and they got a great staff, and Deion is still Deion, and they recruit well. So Colorado ain't going anywhere. Next, Arizona State will once again end the regular season with their eyes on the playoffs. Kenny Dillingham has brought a toughness to Arizona State that will make them tough to beat, even without Cam Scatterbo. I really like Arizona State, which I've said before. They're definitely going to be in contention for the Big 12 championship, if not my favorite for the championship. All right, moving on to the ACC. Cade Klubnik will continue to improve as Clemson's impressive offense continues the hot streak that the team finished last season on. With 8 starters returning on offense, Clemson is a shoo-in for the ACC championship game. I firmly believe this. Dabo Swinney has really embraced the portal, and they're recruiting a little bit better, and Cade Klubnik turned the corner last season towards the end, and I think that offense is going to be amazing, honestly. All right, my last prediction for this episode. Memphis will buck historical trends and have a second consecutive season of success. Now, I know what you're saying. That sounds really out of left field, and it kind of is, but if you look back at history, Memphis will have like one good year, and then 15 years of mediocrity, and then one good year, and then 15 years of mediocrity. So I think they're going to buck the trend, and they're going to be reasonably good. Now, maybe that gets them the group of 5 playoff spot. Maybe it doesn't, but I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't know. I have a gut feeling. All right, that will do it for this episode. Next week, we've got a recap of the IndyCar season so far and a small preview of the month of May, which is coming up. So, thank you all for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, do all the things to help grow the channel. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Audacity, Amazon Music, thank you. Thank you for finding this podcast, seeking it out, and listening. I really, really appreciate it. I know how hard we are to find, and it means a lot to me that you're giving me your 20 to 30-ish minutes of time every week. So thank you for that. All right. My name is H. James K. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time.